Let's go. Hello, everyone. We are in the AI drop. I'm Anji Ismail, and this show is not about me. My initials are AI, but this show is about artificial intelligence. And today, I'm super pleased to have with me Ryan, who is a friend starting a company that is super cool. Disclaimer: Ryan was an intern at my company 2 years ago. He will talk about what he did for us, but also I'm a small investor in this company, so hopefully we'll make it very big. And we are here to just learn more about what he's building. So welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So you are here on the campus of Penn State, right? So you graduated, you are graduating. Tell us more about, what did you learn and what are you working on right now?
Yeah, so majored in computer science at Penn State, graduating in 2 weeks, but stopped classes in December. Basically, my co-founder dropped out, and I was able to graduate. Finish my classes early. We're super excited about what we're building. So basically, we're building Saveware. So Saveware is attempting to automate the sales tax reverse audit process. And to give you a bit of context on what that is, basically, sales tax reverse audits are when tax firms will go through a company's accounts payable to see where they overpaid on sales tax. Companies
Okay.
actually overpay on sales tax like super often. The reason for this is that when vendors are charging you sales tax, you don't realize it, but very often they can be placing sales tax on items on an invoice where there should not be any sales tax. But
Hmm.
the reason they do this is because vendors are just afraid that they're collecting enough sales tax, and they want to make sure that in case of an audit, they're not going to get fined.
Okay.
And so they put sales tax on everything.
Okay.
On
Okay.
the
Sounds
buyer
good.
side, you're none the wiser, right? And
Yeah.
so this space right now is super manual, super archaic. So my co-founder Brady actually worked in the space, and he had to learn like firsthand just how much automation there could be and just how manual and tedious the processes were day to day now. He literally had to spend like weeks going through printed paper, like
Wow.
stacks of paper invoices, having to literally just siphon through them and then compile information into Excels.
Super
So
interesting.
yeah, no, it's really crazy. Like a majority of the work that's being
I
done.
mean, yeah, this is great. This is type of use cases where AI is definitely needed, and automation adding to smarter understanding of, I guess, the tax code itself and how things should be categorized and not, and of course how companies are overpaying and sometimes maybe underpaying the taxes. So we're gonna dive in a little bit in like how the AI play a role in that. Let's take a step back to when you were an intern, because right now you're like the CEO of a startup, you're raising funds, you're doing all these things, but you were just an intern two years ago. So you built a chat bot AI based on GPT 3 or 3.5 model. So tell us, like, what was the name of this chatbot and what it used to be?
Yeah, no, it was an awesome time being an intern at Fint. The best internship I've ever had. Was very
The
fun.
last one, because you're gonna exit your company for $100 billion, so you're good, right? No need to intern anymore.
Thank God for that investor disclaimer, huh?
Okay.
So yeah, no, when I was working at Fint, I mean, we learned so much about how to think critically in a startup and just like think through building features for your users. And you told me, and I got the opportunity, right, to build this chatbot right as like GPT 3.5 had come out. We were able to build a chatbot that could help users in, the neo banking app that was Fint 2 years ago, help them navigate the app and help them get the best out of basically multi-user banking.
Yeah.
And so we got to build the chatbot. We called it the J after part of my last name, which was very funny. And we got to experiment with RAG like right as it was
Not
when it
even
was
a
still
thing.
very nascent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It was. I don't think the terms was coined yet, and you were still like, "Oh, we need to add some context here. We need to provide it the data." And like the engineering team was like, "Are you just feeding all the data?" And so we had to figure out like some security stuff, some privacy.
I remember I
But
was
yeah,
telling you
interesting
like
time.
Yeah, I remember I was telling you, I was like, I think there's a way to get this data in and to be like smart about the data we could give the model. And you were like, well, how long will it take? And I was like, give me a day. And you were like, if it takes any more than a day, don't do it. I was like, okay, we'll try.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like, no, we really had fun, and I think it was a great opportunity. And I'm super glad that now you're starting a company, and that hopefully this small experience got you to love a startup and building. Coming back to your business, because I think this is where it's super interesting. So, why would you say like AI is needed to do this type of work? Would just like traditional OCR, scanning the documents, and just having maybe cheaper labor in some outsourced offshore market won't be more efficient? Like, why you think AI is kind of the best approach to make this a more efficient process and a more, I guess, cost effective as well, because it's about getting back money that you have overpaid to the tax entities.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, of course, there's been for years now models that do extraction and all of these things. But what's really new and what we can do thanks to LLMs now is have like, technology in a pipeline be able to actually like make decisions. And, obviously you can't trust AI to like run your company and do like a million things yet. But I think that you can treat AI kind of as like an intern or as a much cheaper solution to, hiring like offshore cheap labor. When it comes to like elementary decision making that you can teach someone to have the reasoning necessary in a very quick span, AI is the best solution. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's more reliable in some circumstances with the right testing. With AI, it's like, I kind of like to give the analogy that it's like hiring like a 15-year-old intern. It's like they don't really know what they're doing, but you can get them like pretty good
Yeah.
to a certain extent very quickly. You can't trust them, but it's really good to think of it that way. I think it's like having a huge internship program.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
that's super interesting, like on the internet and like training it. So tell me more about like how did you start transferring the knowledge from your co-founder who did an internship, if I'm correct, like doing that manually, seeing people doing this work the old way, and how you started transferring and building the agents or building your system so that they can reproduce that work with a level of accuracy that is good enough to be out there and to be used by actual customer, actual companies.
yeah, well, so there's multiple parts to it. One, we started by just mapping out the full process and workflow. There's obviously a lot of the information that you can find that is, very linear. Like it's just like rules and tax codes that can determine a lot of these things. Where you actually get, a really good where you actually get a good product that can produce like good outputs is when they know how to interpret the tax codes. And that's always been the most difficult part and where these companies make their bread and butter. And so I think that a lot of that is going to come from the rules that we can like manually write down ourselves and all of the interpretations that we can give to the model. And then there's the data, right? Like actually giving it a ton of examples, whether that's through RAG, through in context learning. Like there's a lot of ways that you can transmit past examples in an effective way to make sure that the next decision that it has to make is very well informed.
Okay. And so are you already getting some feedback from your customers? I know you have like pilot customers, design partners, and you've been like working with actual data. I don't want you to share, of course, either the name or like the company you work with, because it's obviously pretty sensitive as a business. But like, how do you place the human, we say human in the loop, human feedback reinforcement techniques in that, so that you make sure your models and your agents are getting better over time?
Yeah, so we have one partner and they've been incredibly helpful, giving us a ton of data and helping us get the years of experience and being able to blend that in with the modern technology of what we're doing. And I would have to say, you said the second part of that was how are you using those techniques to actually reinforce it? I think it's a lot of RAG, like augmented with like a few not too complicated techniques that allow you to make sure that one, you have a really good data ingestion pipeline, and as the data is flowing through your database, it's getting ready to be used like in an ongoing process directly to be used to help reinforce the next decision it'll make.
Yeah.
Whether that's like being available, like whether that's by instantaneously being like available already in the vector database and the embedding and having like really good like processes in place to label the data as it comes into your program and making sure that you're correctly labeling it, right? Because you do have to be careful when you have an AI labeling your data for another AI having the decision.
Yeah.
That pipeline where you can check that with people and make sure that it's ready as data goes in has been like the most important part, I'd say.
Okay. So data preparation, making sure the data is correctly annotated, labeled. Labeled, right? It's funny because we usually speak in French, and in this podcast, I often have French speakers. You're originally from Morocco, which is also a French, speaking country. Even though is it second language in Morocco or third language? It's still French.
Second language, yeah.
Second language. So yeah, we usually speak in French, but you have a much better accent than me because you were born in the US, right?
Yeah, I lived half my life in the US, half in Morocco.
And you're still young. You're still like not even 16 years old. So moving on. No, I think no, that's great. So preparing that data, this is super important. I think coming back also on your stack, right? Like, of course, no need to disclose exactly what you're using, etc. But what is some like of the models that you're excited about, or some of the maybe tools, artifacts that are making RAG specifically more helpful? Because right now there is sort of like debate between, I think we have seen some articles saying RAG is dead. It didn't even live for like a year, but already people calling RAG is dead because context window of models. I think Llama 4 came up with a like 10 million token window, and you have Gemma or Gemini. There are probably 2-3 million token windows. So can you tell us like how do you think RAG is important, but also some of the learnings you had in using it to augment the models, and what models maybe you're more you're more using yourself on your day to day to build Saveware?
Yeah, I have to say, I think, I don't think RAG is dead. I think the context windows increasing to like millions of tokens, it's incredible and it's really helpful. But I also do think that I noticed that even when, it can take a certain context window, after a certain amount, the quality of the outputs really decreases. We have like one of our algorithms, for example, that like whenever we feed it, like for example, Gemini Flash, if you feed it too many pages of a model at a time, you'll just see that the quality gets decreased. And so you want to make sure that you're getting the best out of it. And so maybe batching your calls is better. And can it do more? Sure. But I think that RAG isn't just about being able to fit in a quantity of information, but it's about being able to select the right information with semantic search, with like increased retrieval techniques. And so if you're thinking about it purely from a context window standpoint, you're really thinking about what is the quantity I can give it, and not filtering or like kind of, making sure you're giving it the meat of what it really needs to make the decision. So I wouldn't say RAG is dead. I think increased and improved retrieval is like the key.
Okay, no, that's good, and I love the analogy, or at least the image that you're saying. It's not mostly about the volume of data that you're sending to the model, but it's really the quality, and RAG is here for that, to help the model retrieve the appropriate data or the appropriate context that it needs to actually provide you the most accurate answer. And in financial work like you're doing, like I'm doing, accuracy is probably the most important. So tell me, like, how can you get tax professionals to trust a team of dropout, or like you graduated, but I know your co-founder dropped out, and like you're pretty young, even though young today is good, right? Like they are young, they are using AI, but can you tell me like what the balance between building the best product and basically building that trust to be a matter expert, like to know exactly this field, and so that you can show to your future customers, partners, and so on, that you know what you're talking about, because it's a very specific field. It's not like dating, right, where everybody will experience with dating. Like nobody really experienced with tax, especially at the corporate level. So how do you balance that?
I think it's doing the work yourself, like, right? So if you want to become a subject matter expert and at the same time make sure that your tech is really good and you're automating a workflow, you need to make sure that you've done that workflow yourself manually. I think you need to make sure that you've done it time and time over again, that you understand and can really evaluate the outputs of your AI and evaluate it from like a human perspective. I really like thinking of AI as like if it were like an intern. You can't have that much, but you can have it do a lot of the things to speed you up. And so it's like, if I want people to trust me to give them a product that's going to do something, I need to make sure that if I were doing that task myself, I would also trust the product to do it for me. And so I think that kind of reasoning process is really important. Like we recently, this is one of our investors, but we've learned that it's very important that we go back and spend the time properly to like do the workflow manually ourselves. Even if we have to do it through methods that we don't like and want to automate, it's good to just get back to that, to make sure that that'll help us improve our technology over time.
Yeah, to do the hard work, basically. And so talking about interns that you cannot trust all the time, I remember, Ryan, you broke our production, right? Remember that? Right? Like it didn't last so long, but I remember there was like something that went, and I probably was part of the approval process and say, hey, let's just ship thing, let's just ship. And, sometime we break thing, but that's a way for startup.
Thank God.
No, I love your approach of saying you have to do the work yourself, because it's true that in the AI craze hype, people are trying to automate things, and I see that every day as well. Like there is a lot of appetite for everything that has the word AI right now, and people might think everything is doable, which is not the case. First, but also you need to teach. You need to have this workflow in place. You need to have all the guardrails in place. You need to have all this context in place. And that's the work. If you don't know where to find the data, if you don't know how the data should be presented, if you don't know how the workflow run, I agree with you. Like the intern is gonna do probably a lot of mistake. In that case, agents are very good at being creative and make some interesting mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. I think the data is the biggest problem, especially nowadays.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about that. Like on your side, so you are training mostly your models, your agents on your customer needs and requirements. So it's you don't need to train the model with data that are from the market, like from the best practices around tax optimization or tax saving, etc. Or would you say that this is probably like next step where you can be to be on par with the best tax audit firms, you will need to develop also a sort of a market benchmark of the best way to do things in all states, in all industries, in all category of taxes. How do you balance like proprietary data from your customer and the data that might be out there in the field of the expertise of other firms and yeah, the market as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's all about diversity there. Like you just need to make certain that you have as wide and general of a range of invoices that you can have, just to make sure that when you're evaluating the accuracy of what you're doing, like, it's actually generalizing really well, and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to perform at that accuracy on, like, data sets that it hasn't seen yet. And so, like, it's all about diversity. Like, it's making sure that whatever data you're getting, and for us, even in positioning, right, like it's always about understanding that the data that we're getting is as diverse as possible, and that if there's sources that we're not getting directly from whatever, partnership or something like that, then we can try to create that data and make sure that we're balancing our data set as much as we can to train and test what we're doing.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good advice for anybody trying to build in the AI space. And so you're yourself, I would say, a new founder, right? It's your first company, and so it's interesting that you went on something that is, you know, not everybody will like doing that type of work. Why do you think these specific industries that are old school run like really rely on paperwork, on people checking boxes or manipulating spreadsheet and so on? Why do you think this is where you see most of the opportunities for AI to disrupt this type of jobs?
Yeah, I think not a lot of people are doing this because, one, it's, you could, some people would consider it as boring. Some people being me like 3 years ago before I
Yeah,
went
yeah.
into the space. And two, I think it's the data. Like the data is super difficult to work with, right? Like you have companies that it's not even just like that they don't use AI, but some of them don't, use a lot of computers. They don't use tech in
Mm.
general. Like when we say like stacks of paper invoices, it's not even digitalized. Like it's genuinely like getting folders of paper. And so when you do that, and you really have to, like, the data is in the state that people treat papers, and they're not thinking long term about the fact that this can be training data, or the fact that this can be, used or capitalized on in the context of growing a company. Like they just think of it as something they need to get done. And so you find
Mm.
all the worst like examples of problems you'll encounter during data cleaning, we've run into. Like it's been a very fun process. And so I think it's kind of like that whole, mantra you're hearing, where it's like it's no longer about AI now, it's about like companies' data readiness. We encounter that a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the reasons that the space has a lot of problems and untapped opportunities. And I think for us, it's really exciting to try to work on that.
Okay, no, amazing. And maybe coming back on the startup itself. So, what are some of your ambition for this company? I mean, sky is the limit, obviously, but like, do you have any short term, milestone that you want to reach? Either it can be, on the business side, on the hiring side, on the fundraising side, and how do you articulate it? Because like one of the risks, obviously, of working on a niche market, because we can call what you do, but also what I'm working on. So it's niche market that are big enough to build billion-dollar companies. But we never know. Tomorrow, a bigger player come in and do exactly what you're doing. So how do you, without of course telling exactly the secret that you are working on, but how do you manage this roadmap or this milestone to keep the velocity, keep pushing the boundaries, and growing as a company and as a startup?
I think it's understanding. Right now, the biggest milestones we need to work on are improving our product. Like I think it's improving the accuracy of our models. It's making sure that we're automating these workflows as well as we can.
Okay.
And what that entails, obviously, is understanding the workflows perfectly. Like
Okay.
we need to understand not just every step of the workflow, but why it's done that way and what opportunities there are to really rethink the workflow from the start. It hasn't, it started off as trying to just automate everything. And then you start to ask, well, okay, why is it even done this way? Are there better ways to go about this? And so I really think it comes down to just understanding the problem from the start and how you can fix it. So if I had to, answer what our next milestones are, it's really continuing on this journey of understanding it. And as we automate things, seeing if we can just redesign some parts of the workflow from the start of it. And long term, what that means, I think, is, being able to really reinvent how reverse audits are done and see if maybe we can get to a point that maybe these reverse audits aren't even needed because maybe no company's overpaying anymore because the problem is solved on the other end. So that's much more of a long-term dream. But
Yeah,
it's
of
like,
course.
instead of helping companies get back their money, how can we maybe start to, once we're at a certain accuracy, make sure that they're not overpaying from the start,
Yeah.
preventing the problem?
Yeah, because technically you could have agents that are based on models that you have developed that will know in advance, okay, don't apply this tax right here. Oh, don't pay this invoice. Just ask for the invoice to be re-edited because from past data, you know exactly that you are overpaying here or you are not filling your tax stuff in the right way. So yeah, like removing the need for the audit afterward and making sure that the company is not overpaying, that would be the dream. And what you're saying is that by learning how these work and gathering the data on how this is done today, you could probably build a better product over and over at the point that it can avoid the whole overpaying tax.
Yeah, build a better process, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me a little bit about the current the current day to day at the startup. It's very early. You're working at the Penn State campus. I love that. I can smell from here that you just ate some dry noodles. How many hours are you working? And like, what's the team look like today? Is it like a bunch
Yeah.
of people from the school?
Yeah, it's
W-
it's super early. Me and my co-founder, some of our friends that, are also just like super passionate and really hardworking, and we're just, working on it as hard as we can, as much as we can, and we're kind of just having fun obsessing about this problem, and trying to build the best technology that we can to combat it. We have our partner that we're working with that have so much experience that we're able to really just like absorb a lot from. And so I guess it's just continuously understanding what this can be in the long run.
Yeah, I love how you're obsessed about their problems and solving it. And so, don't you think to build a big company, you should be moving out of the campus soon? Especially, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have anything against Pennsylvania, but I guess it's not Silicon Valley.
Nothing against Pennsylvania. Yeah, no, I love Pennsylvania. Specifically from being on the college campus, though, I do think we're going to move soon. We're still here because we have our leases up, like quite
Yeah.
literally. But as soon as those are done, I think we're going to be all moving in together and then working on, all moving in together and then going wherever there's the most opportunity for, better hiring, a better customer base, making sure that our data is adequate with where we're going to be moving to, because obviously when it comes into taxes, like it does differ state by state. So yeah.
Okay, love that. Yeah, I think you're right. Like the approach should be do whatever is best for the company and for the customers. I think that goes hand in hand usually. Maybe one last one on the company side. Like, what are some of the biggest players or either incumbents that might be playing in that space that you are either gonna kill or either they're gonna acquire you? I think it's if you can drop a few names of companies that people know, it helps to kind of put you in an ecosystem and we can see, okay, where these guys are playing.
Well, first off, not just like kill or acquire, but also just like partner, right? There's so many opportunities for collaboration. Like what we're trying to solve, they can help with. There's a million ways that we can work together.
You
So
should do politics, not development. Like when you answer, yeah, we can partner.
no,
Yeah,
but
of
honestly,
course.
like
Yeah, I agree.
you
I
know,
agree.
there's a million ways to work with them, and that is what we're trying to pursue. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that
Oh,
yeah,
go
I think
ahead.
working with them is the biggest thing. The landscape right now, the way it looks, is you're either, if you're in this space, you're either a tax firm that's doing it super manually, and reach out, we'd love to work with you, or you're a company that's specialized in AI tax, which there's a
Hmm.
lot of companies that do that, but they don't really focus in on reverse auditing. And there's good reasons why not to focus on it. And from there, an opportunity for us to come in there. They focus especially on the audit space, which is we do reverse audits. They make
Yeah.
sure that their companies are charging enough, making sure that their audit they're compliant, that they're audit like proof.
Hmm.
And that is like a very big space. Companies are obviously way more concerned about making sure that they can't be audited than whether they can save money. And so for
Yeah.
those companies that are focusing on that, I think that's one of the biggest reasons, right? They're trying to nail down that problem, and we're trying to nail down this one.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's a big space. Like the whole finance, corporate finance, automation, both at the consulting firms, within the corporate department, at the big four. This space is just huge. So I think you are right to look at this. But obviously you have to be cautious. Like people can come up with something tomorrow that will make you irrelevant. But you seems to have the perfect approach in building defensibility around your data first and the data that you are working with, and also being an expert in the workflows and in how it's being done. because by knowing exactly how it's being done, you can train your model. So I love that.
Yeah, I think the only way to, obviously anyone can come in and do that tomorrow, and it's not like we have 20 years of experience, but I think
Yeah,
like the way that you can combat that is just by the level of depth that you bring to what you're
yeah,
trying to do, and that's really what we're trying to focus on. And obviously distribution, which is obviously also something that we're trying to focus on. So, it all comes down to just making sure that you're moving as fast as you can.
yeah. Anything on the AI like models, recent stuff that you've seen that have blown your mind in like recent release? I know you've been focusing on other stuff. You've been very down the rabbit hole, but anything that came up like the pictures generation on ChatGPT, the recent Gemma model like from Google or the Llama 4, anything cool that you've seen?
100%. I mean, everyone, has been obsessing about, I mean, there's so many models coming out, and it honestly feels like every 2 weeks there's a new model out, whether it's,
Crazy,
image
yeah.
generation, video generation, just like better LLM benchmarking, always on some one of those like three, performance, speed, anything. It's honestly, I don't have one specific thing that I was really, really impressed by. I think, I was very impressed by like OpenAI's new image capabilities recently. But on the
Okay.
generation side, now I think it's about benchmarking. I'm more
Mhm.
excited about the tools that can help you measure your outputs between these different measure your outputs for these different, all these different models, because they're
Mhm.
getting commoditized. Every company is like outputting very quickly new types of models, reasoning engines, like things like that. I think now it's how fast can you evaluate to whatever use case you're trying to tackle, what is the best model for what you're doing specifically, and how do you like measure the differences in speed, cost, accuracy in an efficient way. And so there's tools that, are specializing in that. And that's, I think, is a really, really interesting thing to get into right now.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and on that note, I think it will be interesting. So I hope some younger folks, younger than me, younger than you, maybe, are going to listen to this. I mean, actually, yeah, it's funny because I'm starting to talk with my daughter about this, right? Like what she should be looking into because she's starting to think, oh, what I want to do when when I'm older, when I'm an adult, which field I want to work in, and what should I learn. So, are you seeing two questions in one? But are you seeing any people your age? I was about to say kids your age, but I don't want to, I don't want to be like the father, figure, even though I have two kids. You're probably, yeah, you're closer to my daughter age that I am to you, like in terms of age difference. So that's a bit crazy to me. But anyway, yeah. So any folks your age that you are seeing not being interested in that space, just saying, hey, it's hype, it's not gonna last, and I don't care about it. That's the first question. And second question is like for everybody that is not at your level of expertise, especially on the AI space, where should they start? Right. So two questions in one
Yeah.
for you.
Well, I think, the people that aren't excited by AI, I think, have just never been very involved or like close to AI. I think that they heard about, like, at least from what I'm experiencing, and this is a lot from the perspective of a student who's at college, the people that aren't interested in AI have never been interested in AI. And I don't think
Ooh.
that they see the potential of it because they
Are,
don't.
are they interested in anything? That's the question.
No, they definitely are, but it's about understanding the capabilities of AI. I
Yeah.
think anyone that's super close to AI is not only excited about it, but is kind of scared, right? There's definitely reason to
True.
be scared, in my opinion. I don't know if you saw this, like literally, I think it was Sam Altman who tweeted like very recently, someone, I forget, but someone was like, don't forget, shout out to OpenAI losing like millions of dollars on people just saying please and thank you to the models. And then Sam Altman said, no, make sure you do that. Like, be careful.
Yeah. And then you have the meme. I will try to place it, the meme here, where you have
Yeah.
like robots in the future, and like they are going to arrest a guy, and this guy is coming, and the robot say, no, not this one, because he was always saying thank you to ChatGPT. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Like the Matrix guy, like I think anyone, the point is anyone who's like close to AI knows that you can't deny AI's capabilities. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that LLMs are going to be the model that produce like that help get us to AGI the most directly, but I
Yeah.
do know that there's a potential for AI to surpass human intelligence
Yeah.
by far.
So
So
everybody needs to be excited, and everybody needs to play with that, right? And so how should they approach, like for people who are not excited or not getting their hands dirty, like building an agent? Now you have so many platforms to build agents. You have so many tools, just even like GPTs, right? Building a GPT using ChatGPT, etc. So should they start? Do you think they should start with something they already know, or something they want to be good at? Like
yeah,
any
I think
tips for
show
them?
them. Well, I mean, I mean, one, if you just want to get interested into it, even just like to understand its capabilities, work with the use case of AI. And there are use cases for everything in AI right now. Take something you care about and see the way AI is improving it, right? Like if you love music, like there are tons of tools in AI right now that are helping you generate music, create music better, listen to music more efficiently, or find the music that you care about. Like pick a use case that you care about and use AI tools and see how they're improving your ability to do what you want to do every day. And then if it's about learning skills, see how it can improve your skills in that. You can use ChatGPT to talk about anything, and then there's specialized tools to help you about anything. And then hopefully that gets you excited enough that you understand that you want to build around AI, and then just have fun building it. And that doesn't mean you have to code anymore. Like there's so many tools now, you don't have to code at all. You can just
That's a good
kind of
point.
learn how to apply it.
Do
Yeah.
you guys use Cursor or Windsurf or anything like this?
Yeah. I'm a huge Cursor fan. We use
Okay.
Cursor all the time. It helps you build at such a faster speed. You don't have to worry about so many little things. You just have to make sure, obviously, that the outputs are correct and that you can evaluate them and that like they're the most efficient way. But it's really good. And sometimes when we even want to think through like features that we want to build and they're not in the platform yet, we can use like Lovable and just like generate a quick prototype that's like 30% of the way what it even needs to look like. But just to visualize that and be able to try stuff in-house and play around with it, it's such a faster process.
Great way to validate idea. I think now we go from idea to proof of concept in just a few hours. And so yeah, Lovable, Replit, Bolt for building. And I'm sharing that so that people that who happen to listen the show, they can refer to that. And on the engineering side, more advanced tools like Cursor and Windsurf to actually build up a full code base. And of course, being very careful about what are the outputs and evaluate them. But I love that.
Don't get
And yeah. Anything else, Ryan? Like anything you want to share with the team? I'm gonna share with the team. Well, yeah, because we are a team. Like there are millions of people listening to this podcast every single week. No, I'm just kidding. Big community. But I'm gonna share your website so people can check it out. I'm gonna share your contact and it's gonna be on LinkedIn and stuff. But anything else you're looking for? So fundraising, I think you're set somehow, but maybe later on another funding, hiring opportunistically, depending on the profile, I guess, and customer, right? Like you, customer and partner to build up your product, continue to improve.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if anyone here is listening and they're just interested in what we're building, reach out. We'd love to tell you about it. Any insights, obviously present a lot of benefit, and yeah, thank you.
No, I mean, reverse audit is a very serious matter. It's pretty boring. We have to say it. Like, I'm not sure everybody like love doing that, and hopefully, it's something that can be done by AI very soon at scale.
Well,
With Saveware.
If you think that you're overpaying, you could be overpaying like millions of dollars a year. So let me know how boring that is to get that back. Reach out.
Yeah,
maybe tell you how boring it is. And
yeah, I will forward any request to you guys. But thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you very much for spending some time with me, sharing your journey. It's still early. I really wish you the best. That you guys are going to skyrocket and go from reverse audit to other crazy things in that space. And yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Thanks so much. And yeah, great, great past boss and now investor.
Of course, always here. Bye. Thank you.